Oh yeah, you're done.
What is going on, YouTube? This is Joshua here at American AF Dumpsters, and man, I've got a good one for you guys today. I think I have got Clayton Roll with Rolling Operations. If you guys don't follow him, don't know who he is yet, which you should. His link will be below. Make sure you go give him a follow real quick. What's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Just trying to catch up with you. That's pretty much it.
You got a little ways to go.
Oh, I know. I'm seeing your channel, and I'm just kind of like, woo, this man knows what he's doing. And I honestly, like we were talking about before we kind of started talking here, man. If I could change one thing, it would have been I wish I would have researched a little bit more before diving in because after having conversations with guys, they're like, yeah, I talked to American AF. Yeah, I wish I would have seen everything that you were showing, or I guess the best way to say messing up or learning the hard way. I wish I would have witnessed those videos before I just dove into my own business.
Yeah.
It would have been a huge help.
Well, the truth is, I hope it was all good stuff that they had to say. To be honest with you, but the truth is, like,
Oh,
you know, this channel that it shows the good, bad, and the ugly, man. Like, I'm not afraid to make mistakes. Problem is, if I make the same mistake twice, then you can call me out on it. But I mean, it feels like I've made every mistake in the book, and I'm still like at the beginning stages of making mistakes, right? I mean, it just happens. So I just watched a
yeah.
video of your tire the other day, or yesterday.
Oh man! Shout
Yeah,
out to the guy who made that comment. I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, but they even said talking about making multiple mistakes. Not really a mistake; it's inevitable. But they said it wouldn't be a rolling operations video if somebody didn't get a flat tire,
right,
and it's just so true, man. It's just like, oh, it's always something. The good,
right.
bad, and the ugly.
And that's what it is, right? I mean, that's really what business to me is. It's just we're firefighters. It's constantly putting out fires, and a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
times they're fires that we set ourselves, right? Because
Oh, most definitely. And I think that's something I like about. I feel like both of our channels is the good, bad, and the ugly.
right,
I think there is a. I think in YouTube in general, it's not the dumpster industry, but you just see all these guys. Oh, it's so great! You're rolling in the money. The cash is coming in. It's all good things, and then you get people into these businesses that kind of fall. I'm not going to say victim, but they see these things happening, and they're like, "Oh man, that on paper that makes total sense." And then they dive into it head first, and then they're like, "Oh wow, there was a
mm,
lot that that guy did not tell me." And I
right,
feel like that you and I, when we make our videos, we are brutally honest about some of the things you run into, and I think
yep.
that's important.
Well, the truth is that like clickbait sells, right?
Oh,
And the truth doesn't, is what it seems like, and that's how YouTube is. But I feel like I'm not in it for the money from YouTube at all,
yeah.
because it's sure as hell does. I can rent one dumpster a month and make more than what YouTube pays me.
Oh yeah, that's kind of how I am. I was like, oh yeah, maybe at the end of the year, I'll have a tank of gas off of all the money I made from YouTube. So
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's like it's literally pure enjoyment now. I actually really love hearing from people telling me, they saw this video, they saw that video, and it got them kind of going. Maybe even not in dumpsters. It just made them, start to think like, how can I, operate my life differently than I have been? Because I
right.
think, I mean, were you ever a 9 to 5er before you got into dumpsters and stuff?
My last real job was when I was 18 through 21 on the police department, and after that, I've been self-employed ever since.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. You did it way sooner than I did, for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, and that's I think we show them that like there is the ability to break away from the 9 to 5 eventually, or
right.
and even if it's like the slow way. I mean, like the way I did it, at least it was like start out a little side hustle, and then it blows out of proportion, and then you have a choice. What do I want to do now?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of America is trying to find that, whatever industry it is.
Right. Ooh, that kind of gets me a little bit, because the truth is that it seems like everybody. But when you talk about what America now, and I don't want to go into politics at all. I don't talk about politics on my channel.
Let's just stop there now.
I've got called out on it, but I'm not. I'm not going to go into politics. But it is true that everybody. It seems like a lot more people nowadays want to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a business owner. Back in the
Mhm.
day, it's like you go to school. Back in my day, you're a lot younger than I am, but back in my day, if you didn't go to school, if you didn't go to college, if you didn't get your degree, um, you
You
weren't
weren't
going to
going
be
to make it.
successful. Entrepreneur
Mhm.
was almost a dirty word, right? I mean, at least for me, I feel like I'm 90, but uh, and it's just, and now everybody wants to be. But the problem is, not everybody wants to bust ass, and they don't realize how much work is actually involved. It's not a 9 to 5. It's worse than a 9 to
Oh no, it's funny. It's not a 9 to 5, but I put probably 10 times more effort and work into this, and I think it's because it's mine. I
5. Right.
work harder and I care more about it, and I think about it nonstop because it is mine. It's not somebody else's business. I worked for a guy that I saw how much my efforts were bringing in for his business, and I was like, why can't I just do this for myself? Like,
Hmm.
I'm only seeing a very small portion of it. And, that's how business works. I'm not going to pay my driver, you know, 90% of my business. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it was kind of an eye opening experience for me where I was just like, okay, like there's other options. And yeah, I think that everybody wants to be the entrepreneur because all they see is the very, 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 very end goal of sipping, daiquiris on the beach while your business is running itself. And I don't think either of us are in that stage right now.
Mm-mm. Not at all. And I'm
So,
40. What did I just turn? 40. What the? 42? I
yeah.
forget. But I'm 42 years old. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, man, as a business owner, and I'm not at that point. I don't feel like
Man,
I'm at that point where I can sit back at all. I mean, I've got to continue to hustle while I can and work hard while I can and keep putting that nest egg away, right? Because the time's going to come when, I can't do it all, right? So,
you're just done. Either your body does it or your mind says, I'm done.
right, right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna break. Let's break it down for everybody who's kind of watching. So we're gonna do. I think we agreed on a two-part series. So part one is gonna be on this channel, on the American AF channel, and then we're gonna hit stop, and we're gonna start back up again on Clayton's channel, Rolling Operations, and then we want you guys to comment questions as much as you can. Normally I've done lives in the past. This is the first time we're actually just gonna post the videos to our channels. And then we want you guys to comment questions, everything in the comment sections below. And we will more than likely, hopefully, get back and do another video answering y'all's questions, comments, concerns, and all that. Right?
Sounds good to me, man. Well, yeah,
Cool.
I'm willing to roll with it. See what roll with it.
Roll.
See what comes of it, and I'd be happy to do this over and over again if people are enjoying it.
Man, I could talk business all day, though. That's the truth.
Oh yeah, I got to be careful. I've got a dinner date. Otherwise, I'll be here for like 3 hours just
Yeah.
rambling.
Yep. Same here, man. All right. Well, I don't have dinner date, but all right. So we got a couple things we want to go over. I guess first thing we had down, or you had down, really was trailer versus hook.
Oh man, I think that is just like the easiest thing to talk about for us because you've done both. You had, if I remember right, you've had a Lone Star,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had a Max XD, essentially the same. I mean, tomato, right? They're same setup, same tub design. Um, and I doubled down just recently. I'm now at two trailers that pick up the same cans. And then I noticed you went hook lift, and not only hook lift, I think you're on hook lift number two, if I've done my research right.
Number two. I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's big. Those are sweet, man. I like those.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I guess if you ask me, first of all, let me go back real quick on what you mentioned a minute ago. I would never compare Lone Star to Max XD. I do not like Lone Star. I do not
oh,
recommend
there it
them.
is.
I'm gonna
Oh,
blast them all I can. It was a horrible trailer. Let's just be honest, man. I've seen
all
Max
right.
XD's set up, and they look much more well built. I guess that's a word. Heavier built. Um,
Mhm.
no, not the Lone Star.
Yeah. All right. So you said it, not me. All right.
Yep.
So
To
I've
me, if you
seen,
need to, I guess Lone Star, but yeah, I didn't like it.
yeah, Lone Star. From what I've seen is it's like they bought a Max XD trailer and went, let's make this, but let's make it cheaper. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And I saw some of their designs and I liked it. I saw one up close, but man, the weld quality and the paint quality is what got me because I found a couple used when I was looking for my second one, and I nearly pulled the trigger on it. But every time, like I'd see pictures of it to get that second one, and I'd show up and be like, "Wow, this thing got really beat on, and it's only like 6 months old. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty." But virtually, they were the same trailer. Let's just call them the same trailer. You have the trailer option, whether you go Texas Pride, Lone Star, Max XD, and then you have hook lift or you have cable truck, right?
Hmm.
Which is I get the question all the time. Should I go? Should I? If you were going to do it again, would you just go get a hook lift truck? If you were going to do it again, would you stay with the trailer? And clearly, you went hook lift, and I want to hear why. Personally, I just want to hear. I want to hear it from somebody who's done
I'm lazy.
it.
There's your biggest answer, right? I mean, I can literally back up to a dumpster as long as I can visually see that the door is latched. I always get out though. I do a walk around,
Oh yeah, you
but
want to see it.
I do want to see it. I want to physically touch and make sure the door is latched.
You
But I
only
don't
make that
have to.
mistake one time. Going back to that, you only make that mistake one
Right.
time where you assume the door is actually closed.
Yep. Yep. My door almost hit my dad when I first got the trailer and I had it at the shop. And I was like, "Oh, look, I can open the door," and the door flings open. My dad's walking
Was
in.
it a single door, one of the real heavy ones
It was a
too?
single door. Luckily, it hit the ground before it hit him.
Yeah,
But he was standing there, and I didn't. Rule number one: don't ever have anybody stand behind your trailer. All that stuff, and I didn't. I didn't know. So,
yeah.
but why the speed of the hook lift? I can back up. I can hook the dumpster, and I can be gone. And you're still not you, but I would still be fiddling with the remote control, pulling all the wires out, hooking the
Hmm.
remote control to the winch and all that stuff. Um,
Hmm.
that's number one.
Hmm.
I got many
Okay.
many other reasons.
I no, I actually love hearing that. Like because a lot of guys have come to me and they've said it's easier, it's this, it's that, it's that. I think it also comes, and this isn't me saying, "Oh, you're old." I think it's one thing that comes with age, man. I can have my trailer, and I got really. This is an embarrassing fact, but this was the first trailer I ever owned, and not only ever owned, probably one of the first trailers I ever drove. Outside of literally driving down a boat ramp, and all I had to do was keep it straight.
Hmm.
This was like the first trailer I ever bought, and kudos to my wife because I bought it and I was rehabbing a house and she sat there for like 30 minutes holding a flashlight in the dark, having me try to get it into my driveway that I was working on this house at. And I destroyed a bush and she did not say anything. She held back the laugh. But after that day, I worked every day for like a week just practicing in a parking lot, putting out cones and practicing, just making sure I got really good at it. And people have made comments in videos I've had before. I jump all over the dumpster. I still haven't got the automatic tarping system, but
Hmm.
I will say you talked about the hooking up of the wires straight to the to the winch and to then busting out the cable for the hydraulic. When I don't have the wireless remotes, you're right, it's a total pain in the butt and it's a total time suck
Right.
when I have to resort to like the backup. But when I have the wireless stuff, I feel like I'm moving fast as lightning. When I don't have it, the extra 5 minutes feels like an absolute eternity, and all I feel like is I'm losing money.
Yeah. Well, I lost
Uh,
my wireless remote one time, and I felt it. I felt it too. That
yeah,
was horrible.
it's a horrible experience.
Yeah. But so I I'm with you a little bit. My gooseneck was the first gooseneck I've ever owned. My roll off
Mhm.
trailer was the first gooseneck I've ever owned, and driving gooseneck is 1,000% different than driving a bumper pull, in my opinion.
Oh yes.
Backing up and getting the feel for it and stuff like that. But I felt like, given practice, I got it down. I could drive circles around most guys, I think, with a trailer. I'm pretty good at
Oh yeah.
driving. But it's not just that. Second thing was to me, and this is not to knock anybody whatsoever. This is just me, my personal opinion. As
Are you
far
going
as
to say professionalism? Did you feel like your business was better because of the having the hook lift? Did you feel like one of the big guys by having that? Because that's my
um,
biggest thing.
kind of, I still feel like a small guy because I have the smaller truck. I keep seeing all these guys with the bigger tandem axles, the big 30 yards and whatever. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
look like that, and then I actually see what my truck looks like. And I'm like, my shit kind of looks like a little, like a little Tonka truck. It's so
Yeah,
small, even the Mac, right, in
yeah.
lengthwise. But no, it wasn't. It's not so much the professionalism to me. It's more um, long term business goals, I guess you can say, and assets. Um, so my goal, and this is kind of one of our touch points later on, though, is to have a business that I feel later on down the road would be um, more wanted by maybe the big boys or somebody to come in and buy the business, and really parking money in our dumpsters, parking money in the business. I think we'll have a bigger return down the road at the end of the day.
I
And
100% agree with you.
yeah, so that's second main reason. Now, would a cable roll off truck be worth more than a hook lift truck, or get me more in the long run? I don't know. That's still yet to be seen.
I would say that would be the only one up from the hook lift, at least here in my area. Because the way I looked at it is if I wanted to be acquired by one of the big guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would look at their equipment and go, if they were to buy me out, they buy out my business, I sign a non-compete and I am never to work here again in this area, they're also going to want my stuff,
Right.
likely. Or they don't want me to just dissolve the business, which is one option. They might just buy you out and say, "We don't want your stuff, just don't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Don't operate your business. We want your revenue." That's one thing that could come of it. But another part is, like you said, you have assets that could go with your business if it was a big guy to buy it. If it's just another guy who just wants to get into the business, they really don't care what kind of equipment you have.
Right.
If they see the numbers on paper, they're saying, okay, this business works. I want to buy his stuff. They might not be looking at it as close in detail as you are. But you're right. If you see a big company running hook lifts in your area, I'd buy a hook lift. If you see big guys running cable trucks in your area, I would probably buy the cable truck because if they're going to acquire you, that's more attractive to them than me running Max XD trailers with dumpsters that don't fit them. That's, I mean, they don't want those. I mean, let's just be honest.
Right.
I think that comes down to focusing on your long-term investment. I think that's really smart of you if you're looking at it that way. If I was to do it 100% over again and I would have seen where I am today, I probably would have got. And I love Max XD. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just a lot of guys. Everybody's got their preference, just like Ford, Ram, Dodge, Toyota, whatever. Everybody's got their brand preference. Max XD's worked out for me. Their equipment has stood the test of time for me, and I've gotten comfortable with it. But if I was to start all over again, I would have bought a trailer for my truck, just starting small, testing the waters, proof of concept. I think this is going to work. I would have bought a trailer that was standard rail cable. That way, when I'm ready to upgrade, I could have just gone into another cable truck and then, all my dumpsters transfer. I don't have to go to a fabricator to make them, do this, don't do that. But that's just me. I don't know about you. You've already taken the big boy step. You got into the hook lift truck, the thing that everybody seems to have that goal to. I personally am just focusing on a niche. I 90% of my business is probably residential. They
Mm-hmm.
don't really care what my truck looks like. They don't really care how many tons because I'm not really carrying that many tons often. But if you're wanting to go after the contractor, get acquired, I really like the way you handled it. And I would have done mine differently personally if I would have seen that opportunity.
So you're kind of exactly where I was. I would say a year ago, at least in as far as your mindset, right? Because I don't know. So last year I had 12 dumpsters with the roll off, and
Mm-hmm.
it was great. But I felt like I was at that point where I had to make a decision whether this was going to be whether I just wanted to stick with residential, or I was getting a lot of contractors. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, it's almost like the heavier it gets, the more money it brings in. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
around here is starting to get. I'm seeing well, and it's one of those things, right? When you get into it, you see it 100 times more than you do if you
Yes.
don't pay attention to it much. So I don't know if it's just that, or it really is that everybody and their mom is getting into the roll off business or the dump trailer rental business or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot lower market or lower entry, right, than it is the bigger trucks. So
Yes.
my goal, I decided, let me get into the bigger, little bit bigger truck. I can haul a little bit more, and I can hopefully, later on it'll be worth just as much, if not more. But my end goal, that's not where I'm going to stop. My end goal is now next year, I'm hoping to get a tandem hook lift where I can haul 30s and possibly 40s, and then I'll have a little bit of both worlds. I can do the smaller residential, but I can do the heavier, commercial. I could do the heavier demo jobs or the dirt work or the concrete work or whatever it is. There's not that much competition there. Lots.
Mm-hmm.
It's much harder to get into the 30s and 40s than it is into the roll offs.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, and I think what it is, you have a vision. You've got your vision board. You know where you want to go. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that no matter what, if you want to get into this business or mowing or like anything, there's tiers. You've
Mm-hmm.
got your, you've got your mowers, your guys that go around town mowing. But then you got your guys who are mowers, but they also focus on landscaping. Landscaping is a whole different ballgame. If you've ever looked into it, it's just like a guy that landscaping and mowing is not the same as a guy that walks around or goes around town with one trailer and one mower.
Right.
Revenue streams totally different. I think what you're doing is you're tearing up your dumpster. You're like all in on dumpsters. Like, uh, you know where your business needs to be in a year or two. I am like you said, I am in that state where I'm like, okay, residential is my focus with the occasional contractor. But I've also come to the realization, and this was the really tough part for me, like when I wanted to stay with the trailers, was at the end of the day, I need one, if not two, diesel trucks running around at all times. Because not only does my business focus primarily on dumpsters, I've got shipping containers, which I use for mobile storage, and I use a flatbed trailer to move those. Could I do a hook lift and convert all of my shipping containers to do a hook lift? Yeah, I could definitely do that. And it is, definitely a tempting thing. But then we also have, my primarily focus is also to shift from just doing dumpsters to also doing like tool equipment rental, like your light skidsters, mini excavators, generators, lights, all the things that you would want at a construction site or for like a farmer would need for one-off projects. So I think when you're building this business, you need to kind of figure out your territory. Because another thing is, I've got a competitor in my area who is, I'll never be able to compete with him on prices. He's got a sweetheart deal with somebody somewhere up at the dump
Mm.
where he can rent a 30 and 40 yard dumpster at an insane rate, and I can't get that tonnage deal at the dump. At least not the way I'm standing. I would have to make the investment to get into that niche and then hope that I could compete with it. So he has that. That's why I am focused on the residential so much because if I dove in head first 30s, 40s without thinking and tried to compete with him, I'd be priced almost double
Mm.
to make the same margin he is. And nobody's going to pay that knowing they can get it somewhere else.
Right. Well, you don't
So
seem like the guy
research,
that just jump into something without doing the research. So, I mean, I'm sure
yeah.
you would definitely look into it. But I know around here there's a landfill, and I'm not going to give too much information out because that's my secret, right? But there's a
Mhm.
landfill that charges a crazy amount of money if you were just to go in there as a regular person with a dump trailer or a roll off or even a truck like mine. Uh, like directly, they would charge a crazy amount of money directly. I have
Mhm.
found out that, and that's I'm talking about 250 to $275 for a 20-yard dumpster, versus if you go in through a specific account or a wholesaler deal, or I don't know, I honestly don't even know how it really works, but you go in through this account and you're paying $37 a ton. That's it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that might be what he's doing. I don't know. Also, I talk to CFL dumpsters all the time. I don't know if you know him, Lou, out of Florida. Awesome
I
dude. I'll
think
give him a shout out. Huh?
I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on YouTube. But he dumps at a place that's privately owned by another dumpster company. The dumpster company owns the transfer station. Obviously, the dump for that company is going to be way cheaper. It's one of the real big boys. It's not one of the big, three or whatever, but it's a big guy out there, and he owns his own transfer station, so it's a lot cheaper for him to dump. It's really hard to compete with that. So I see
Yeah,
where
it
you're coming
is.
from.
That's it does you really it's going to be so different. Your business is going to be totally different from my business, and that's sometimes I love it when you guys reach out, you that are listening, but sometimes you ask me decisions that I can't make
Right.
for you, where it's, do you think this is the best setup? Do you think this is a good price? That one gets me a lot. It's like I don't know. I don't
Right.
know how much. I mean, the fuel difference can be $1 a gallon between what part of the country you're in. Your insurance, that's pretty much the thing that's going to be closest if you're running the same type of truck and trailer that I can tell you, hey, that's a decent price. But
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, your fuel, your competition, your dump fees, all of that.
Yep.
100% different from what
Right.
I'm doing.
Right. That's why you got to do your research, big
Yeah,
time.
and I think some guys unfortunately might not have, and they got into it. And you know what? I'm glad that they even tried, because the nice thing that happened to those guys is they got into this business in a really really weird time where they couldn't lose that much. At least I don't see it that way, because I don't know about you, but some of the equipment I bought went up after 2 years in
Hmm.
price. I could resell my equipment 2 years later and make money. It was a very interesting thing we saw happen to the trailer industry or the metal industry, the trucking industry, that it was a good time to test to see, does this work for my area.
Right. No, same thing. I got my bigger dumpster. What was it? 16, 20 yards dump trailer for like 7,500 bucks. You couldn't come close, and that's brand new. Couldn't come close to that right now.
Double it,
Yeah.
double it right now.
So back to one more thing about the hook lift and the trailer, man. Um, you know, the Lone Star trailer, I was happy to get rid of anyways, but
Mhm.
I went from the 12 dumpsters all the way back down to 5 dumpsters and a hook, and then I had to work my way back up to 12. So it's taken me almost a full year to where I just been back up to 12 now. But at the end of the day, I still think it's worth it for me and my business and where I plan on going. So it's not knocking trailers at all, because I loved actually having a trailer. I liked the flexibility it gave me to drive my truck all the time, like versus driving this big dumpster truck, and I gotta go back to the shop or the yard and switch out my personal car if I don't want to bring my truck home, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So it's a little more
Yeah,
inconvenient, I guess, but you know, it is.
I think again it just comes down to preference, market, availability. Because yeah, for me personally, I don't know how far. We don't need to talk about where we're dumping or how we're dumping or all that kind of stuff. But I think just calculating the distance. What kind of mileage do you get on like your Mac? I'm
Eight
guessing like
point
6, seven
six
miles.
miles to the gallon.
Okay,
Eight
so
point
I
six.
mean, like in one of my diesels, I'm usually, 12 miles to the gallon, but I'm making, a trip to the dump there back empty, and my radius is pretty big where I'm like, well, if I'm getting 12 miles a gallon in this and I'm not seeing these bigger accounts coming to me wanting bigger dumpsters, I don't have a need to move it into that yet. There's
Right.
just all kinds of things. Just back to it. Just there's so many reasons why you could want one over the other.
Yep.
And you're right. I've driven a couple big, just barely under CDL trucks, and it would be hard for me. It's no secret, I am a little man, and me sitting in one of those trucks for hours, I'd probably get a little anxious, a little like stressed. I'm sure I'd get used to it, but I love being comfortable in my truck, just
Hmm.
driving.
I'm looking for seats for my Mac already. Let's just put it at that. I
Yeah,
am
I'm
literally
sure.
looking for seats. But anyways, we are almost already out of time on this one. But let's go one more thing, man. Um, Actually, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Let's skip this one for real quick and go there. Side hustle, I guess. It's kind of touches the same thing, right? Side hustle versus business. Where do you see your business at now? Did it start off at a side hustle? Did you think it was going to become what it is? I mean, or did you kind of want to keep it as side hustle? There's like 5 questions all in one right there, so I'll leave it to that.
No, no, you're right. I've kind of made a video. Actually, I didn't make a video about it. The whole reason I got into YouTube was a buddy of mine made a video about it, and he got 500,000 views. And I started making videos about the same content, and I, get a couple thousand views. Thank you to
Right.
my loyal subscribers. But you know what I mean. I got into it totally on accident. I was rehabbing a house, and I was about to get a dump trailer because the dumpster prices were so expensive. And I called about the dump fee, and I'm like, okay, that's not that expensive. And this is where I used to live. And I just happened to come across these trailers. It must have been right about the time they started becoming mainstream. And it was going to be a side hustle. And then it just kind of, oh, I'll rent it out occasionally when I don't need it. That'll basically pay for it. Bought it with a credit card, and I paid that credit card off really, really fast. It was a 0% interest card. And then when I paid that off, I kind of went, well, I guess I'll buy another one. And then it just snowballed. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I did get to that pivoting point, which I think everybody who starts a side hustle gets to, where they go, okay, this is This is my mainstream income. This is that W-2 job that pays me this amount of money and has that security. And then there's my side hustle, which after doing bookkeeping, I see it's making this much money. But should I do it? And eventually I just got to the point that I said, screw it, like I'm doubling down. So
Doubling down on what? Number of dumpsters or your time
I just
or
doubled down on focusing on the business. Like the mainstream job kind of disappeared, and I just doubled down on the business. And I'm just like, okay, let's get more dumpsters. Let's get another trailer. Let's get another truck. Let's start talking to somebody about doing some driving part time, which will eventually be full time. And that's where I'm at now. I mean, I never. No, you're right. Like I never would have seen my business where it is now. I really just kind of thought I'd be a kid that had a dumpster that I'd rent out occasionally. Never thought that I'd be doing X amount of dumpsters per month and scrambling all the time because I don't have enough.
right,
It seems like every month comes and you're like, I need more dumpsters, or I need more time, or I need both. I don't know.
right, right.
So it's a good feeling, but it does start to get to you where you're just like, okay, where do I want this business to be, and where do I stop?
Mm-hmm. Because you're always feeding
So
the monster, right? It's almost like you're always feeding the monster, whether it be money, upgrades, additional dumpsters, additional vehicles, additional
it's hard.
trailers.
It's hard to stop, man. It's really, really hard to stop. When I do my bookkeeping, I don't know about you, but I'm always feeding, like you said, feeding the monster, going back into the business. And I'm like, I'm going to reinvest in the business. And I look at my bookkeeping and I go, man, I did really well this month. And then I'm like, oh, wait, but I did buy that one piece of equipment this month. And then that other piece of equipment next month. And you just
Mhm.
go, okay, at the end of the year, I'm probably not going to make any money. But at the end of the day, I really don't care. I'm reinvesting in a business where I hope to see it just it does cash flow eventually. Not a lot of people just start a business and day one they're cash flowing like crazy. They might feel like they are until you have to buy that next piece of equipment to keep up, and then all that cash flow is gone. And that's kind of what it is. It's literally an addiction. It is my methamphetamine.
Exactly. But it's a good place to park money. I look at it, I invest, right? I invest money in stocks, but it's the same. It's almost the same concept. You know what I'm saying? You're building. Hopefully, it's not real estate. You're not building wealth in the long run as much as you would real estate. I know you're into real estate a lot too, but it's kind of the same thing. I mean, you're putting money into more assets that will hopefully call you be able to worth just as much down the road as it does now with the way the market's been too, as like you mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, I think honestly we should just cut this video right here and
Done.
then segue that into the next one, because I think that could be another freaking 30-minute conversation.
Done. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell on both channels. Both channels where my fingers at. Comment below questions, and stay tuned for part two over on Clayton's channel. Dang on it. Cool. End
You
record.
like that?